On November 1st, 1966, All Saints Day, the city of New Orleans was awarded an NFL franchise, naming them the Saints in honor of their birthday and the region's Catholic heritage. For decades, they were one of the worst teams in football, at one point becoming famous for fans wearing paper bags over their heads in mock embarrassment. But in the mid-2000s, they became an offensive powerhouse and won the franchise's lone Super Bowl in 2010, followed by a series of unfathomably heartbreaking playoff losses. So what's it like being a New Orleans Saints fan? Let's find out. I'm Dan Hopper, and this is Thrill of Defeat. My first guest today is Charles Starr, a friend of mine. He hosts the A-Lab series and is a co-host of the New Orleans Saints podcast, City Saint, Country Saint. He's on social as Ugarles. That's just how you spell it.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't pronounce right at all.
Ugarles. I wasn't just going to say Ugarles and just assume our viewers all immediately are going to know how to follow you. It's Charles Starr. Charles, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And with Charles is his podcast co-host from City Saint, Country Saint. It's El Ron Mexico. Ron, how's it going?
It's great. Great to be here. Can't wait to relive all these terrible losses and what it's like to be a Saints fan.
Yeah, thanks so much. We'll just start by, tell me where you guys grew up and how did you first become fans of the New Orleans Saints?
You got to start with this one, Ron, because your story is less stupid.
Okay. All right. Well, it makes more sense.
Now everyone's just going to be anticipating Charles's stupid story.
Yeah, it's a very stupid. It's really good. But
okay.
I guess it was just, cultural immersion. I grew up out right outside of New Orleans. So, of course, this was the team everyone rooted for. So, and basically, like when your drunk uncles are happy, you're going to have a good day. So if it's Sunday and everybody's hanging out and everybody's, the Saints are winning, it's great. When they're not, it sucks. But it's to be expected when they're losing. It's just kind of, I grew up around it. It's you grew up rooting for the Saints because when they win, everyone's happy. When everyone's happy, everyone's having a good time. So it is part of the culture down here in a way I think a lot of fandoms aren't. Like it is in the, not to say the blood, because the blood's not real. I mean, the blood's real, but you can't. It's not blood. There's not Saints in blood. You know what I'm saying? It's just a part. It's just a part of the culture, and I'm part of the culture. So I'm a Saints fan.
Yeah. I was wondering if you're going to get your blood's not real conspiracy theory into this. Oh my God. Yeah. Here he goes. Yeah. Cool. Charles, let's hear this stupid story.
Okay. I hate myself and I make bad choices. And when I was a kid, I chose all out-of-town teams for dumb reasons. I mean, as you know, I'm a Pirates fan from Queens. Already dumb, because that was my first Little League team. And I chose the Saints because I had to do in like third or fourth grade, I had to do like a book, like a little report on the Fleur-de-Lis. And so I became a Saints fan. And I didn't know that they were wearing bags on their heads. I just chose them. And I'm so old that I became this super dedicated fan of a team when you needed a fucking carrier pigeon to get any out of town news. And so like I cared about them and I pored over the box scores and I tried to find whatever I could, but no one else cared. And they were just losing all the time. But at least at the time they were in the NFC West, so they spent a lot of time in the 4 p.m. window. So like you would actually kind of see them getting beat by 30 by the 49ers twice a year.
I thought you were going to say because it was so hard to find information, you didn't realize they were bad for the first like 30 years of your fandom.
I didn't realize they were bad before I chose them.
I just like the Fleur-de-Lis.
Yeah, it was really painful. But like, you jump into it and then, like you just start following the things that are, so we had Archie Manning and Chuck Muncie and, like, I don't know, like it wasn't that they were devoid of interesting players or whatever. And so even as a kid, you would find something to latch onto, but it was just silly. But I just never gave up on my childhood poorly thought out fandom.
Your childhood book report.
Yeah.
A book report for life.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So that, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a stupid story. It's an unusual story of how to follow a team, but it's
Yeah.
crazy. And as long as, I know you're a devoted Pirates fan, which, God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You like have to go out of your way to get worse fandoms than you would just inherit if you picked any individual city.
That's
You're
right.
picking the worst, I mean, you mentioned Archie Manning. So what are some of your earliest memories of rooting for the Saints? I know I feel like when I hear Archie Manning, I know he was kind of the default, like great player on bad team for like
Yeah.
decades. Was always how he was referenced.
I'm going to give three and then because mine are earlier because I'm older.
Yeah.
So here are my three formative memories. The one, I was in like fifth or sixth grade. So this has to be in the early 80s.
Mhm.
And I don't remember exactly what year it was, but the Saints went 1-13. I don't think it was the 16-game season yet. And their only win was a 1-point win against the Jets when the Jets missed an extra point. So that was perfect to have your one win be against the team that half of your classmates rooted for.
Okay.
So I
Were you
remember
like
that.
were you like talking trash?
Yeah.
Jets
Yeah.
fans?
Even though the team at the time that I think made them like 1-10
Yeah.
or something. But
Scoreboard.
I think they won that.
Nice kick. Nice extra point.
Yep.
Just getting your ass
Yeah.
beat.
And that's like one of the few games I could get information on because all the local papers and it was, wrote about, the Saints winning on a missed extra point. That's number one. Number two is my cousin. I don't even know where it came, but he got me this thing. It was like the closest thing I remember it to is being kind of a line drawing or something like the Wall Street Journal stipple portraits, but it was of Archie Manning as the NFC Offensive Player of the Year some year when I was a kid. I don't know where he found this thing, but we had like this framed thing. And then the third one is a brutal loss that I think we'll get into later, which was 83, I think. And it was the last game of the season, and the Saints needed to win to get into the playoffs. It was like the Saints were 8-7, and the Rams were 7-8, and because of tiebreakers, the winner of that game at 8-8 would make the playoffs. And Mike Lansford kicked a 40-something yard field goal with 6 seconds left to beat the Saints, and for the first and only time in my life as a sports fan, I actually cried. Like I've gotten angry a million times. I think I was like almost 12, something like that, because it was like January of 83.
Yeah.
I actually cried when they lost that one.
That's fair. We've had a lot of tears on this podcast so far.
Yeah.
So
because
they
they had never had a winning season.
Yeah.
And that was going to be their winning season, their first playoff appearance, and they were winning like the whole game. And then they gave up a field goal drive to lose at the very end of the game.
Yeah.
What do you remember from your childhood, Ron?
My earliest Saints memory, this would have been late 80s, and the Saints were beating the Bears pretty handily. And I'm watching with all my uncles, a lot of my uncles and a ton of my cousins, and we're all sitting around the TV, and we got the lead, and then they immediately all just decide, like, I think it was Mora. Jim Moorhead kind of was new. He's like, Mora's gonna try to sit on this, and it's just gonna slip away, right? And they were like, we're gonna go 3 and out every possession for the rest of the game, and the Bears are gonna score like every time, and we're gonna lose. And that is exactly what happened. And I remember being a kid and being like, wow, like this is like we're bad in a way that like is obvious, like my dumb uncles can predict this, like, and I'm like, all right, this is just my team. They're an idiot team. And another memory I had was I was on a long drive with some of my uncles and cousins. I forgot where he was coming back from, so we listened to the game on the radio, and we lost the game, and it was that same game. He's doing the press conference at the end of the game, the post game thing. They ask him questions, and they ask him about the playoffs, and he does that famous quip that goes, "Playoffs, playoffs."
Yeah, of course.
And I remember just dying laughing in the car. And I think he wasn't long for the team after that. They might have fired him or he stepped down or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think another early memory was when I got a lot of hope when we signed Jim Everett, quarterback I think he played for the Rams, and Jim Rome. He went on this TV called.
Oh, I remember that.
Yes, Jim Rome's little TV show, and he kept calling Jim Everett Chris. It's like Chris Everett, named after the female tennis player, as like a dig at like he was soft or whatever. And then so Jim Everett flips the table and goes to whip his ass. They got to cut the commercial and everything. And I remember being fired up, like finally we got like a. And I think we probably went 6-10 that year, and that was.
It's about time we had a quarterback who would flip over Jim Rome's table.
Yeah.
That's right. Specific things.
Yeah.
Man, I remember that clip was so memorable. It was early years of ESPN2. It had like the early 90s graphic where like the 2 was like all 90s-y looking. I don't know how it's like 2. This isn't a regular number. This is an extreme number.
The remix.
And they're just in this little studio, and he flipped out on him. And then ESPN loved it though. ESPN like replayed that clip constantly.
Yeah. It made I remember watching the local news that night, because that's how like I heard about it. Somebody had said something, and so like I watched every channel's local news. And then they just aired it back to back, and I was just like eating that up. I was like, finally, we got a guy,
Yeah.
I mean, Jim Rome. I have very particular reasons for not wanting to see pussies beat up, but the smug look on Jim Rome's face. I was like, all right, you meathead, beat him to beat that little nerd up.
Yeah. He said, I dare you. He said, like, I dare you say it one more time. And he just smugly sat back and said it. And that was it.
Flipped the table.
Yeah.
He has like Jim Rome has like the early 90s goatee too. It's like such an early 90s clip.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about the Saints fan base as a whole, I know ever since the Drew Brees post-Katrina era, I feel like there was so much talk of them being, such a part of the city, and there was so much joy from the Saints and togetherness. But like back in the 80s and 90s, what was the Saints fan base like?
Mostly ashamed, was, you got the paper bags. It was just like they're gonna lose, but you still had to watch them. It was akin to like military service or like religion. It's like we have to watch this.
Like Finland, everyone in New Orleans must watch 8 games.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it was so distant. I couldn't even answer the question. Like I love the team, and I kind of love the city in a touristy, cultural way, and I appreciate that people don't reject me out of hand when I show up to talk about them, because I at least hate the Falcons, and they're like, all right, good start.
There wasn't a lot of like merch either down here. I remember like when starter jackets got big, like everybody had the Charlotte Hornets or the Raiders. And I remember one kid's like, I think it was his grandma wanted to do something nice, bought him a Saints starter jacket. And oh man, he got teased, like ridiculed.
Oh, man,
like it was
sucks.
like, why would you buy those losers? It was it's like it was just a thing a lot. But now that's different. Like I'll go out with my Saints hat on and my Saints, like it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. But in the 90s, like early 90s, it was, late 90s, it was bad. 80s was bad. But
yeah, it was tough to be rooting for a team that was that bad out of town. Because if you weren't a Jets fan, if you weren't a Giants fan, everyone was a Cowboys fan, even in New York, and they were always winning. And so it was like, yeah, your team sucks, dude.
Yeah.
Why didn't I do a book report on the Lone Star?
Correct.
Correct.
But thank God I wouldn't want any modern affiliation with Texas.
Yeah, I guess that's You won the long game. Just
dodged a bullet.
7 decades of suffering. Yeah. So when I think of the Saints, on the national stage, and a lot of teams when I do these podcasts, I have an immediate like perception of them. And the Saints, I feel like I have no feel for them until I feel like their big national moment for me was in the mid 90s. They hire Mike Ditka as head coach, former Super Bowl winning coach from the Bears. and then immediately trade literally their entire draft, like every single draft pick and a first the next year for Ricky Williams, the star running back from Texas.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when they hired Ditka? And then take us back to, do you remember the Ricky Williams trade and those early days of Ricky Williams?
I remember it. I remember they did a wedding dress photo shoot.
Oh yeah,
where
I remember that.
Ricky Williams put on a wedding dress and he was marrying Mike Ditka, and it was like, what's going on here? Like, I liked it because they were known names, and I was an idiot kid, so I was like, well, Mike Ditka wins and Ricky Williams is good. This is going to be great. And I think they went like 3-13 or something. I don't know. It was bad.
I mean, my take on the trade, I was old enough to be like, I don't know, man. That is a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot for a guy that the Texans didn't even want at number one, right?
Yeah.
Like the Texans took Mario Williams at number one in that draft. And so like some team doesn't even want him and you're giving up 2 1s and the rest of your draft, you're not that close to a Super Bowl, man.
Yeah.
And then it was the first season with like he hired Master P to be his agent, and Master P signed him to what was, if you squinted, the most lucrative rookie contract ever, but was so packed with incentives that were so hard to reach, like 1,500-yard incentives and 2,000-yard incentives for a rookie behind an offensive line that was not good enough to like bet your entire future on. And he missed all of those. He kept getting hurt. Like he got a high ankle sprain early in the year. And this was before he was getting high all the time. And so he had huge anxiety. And like by the end of the year, he wasn't taking his helmet off on the sidelines. He was sitting apart from his teammates. He had a prescription for Paxil. Like it was bad. And I never really held it against him. Especially like later when he turned out to be like, going to ashrams and getting high as fucking, like not giving a shit about anything. I'm like, all right, this is a cool guy who was put in a tough spot. But it blew up in Ditka's face immediately. And that was rough because when they signed Ditka, I was like, all right, man, we're investing in the future.
Well, the specific trade, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So the Saints, they needed to trade up into the top 5. They felt to get Ricky Williams. They traded their first, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh.
Wow.
And then their first and third from the next year to Washington.
And if they didn't trade a second, it's because they didn't have a second.
So they literally traded their entire draft one year and their first and their third the next year to move up to fifth to take Ricky Williams. And then,
fifth.
Fifth.
Not even second.
And this was kind of back before we all knew about running backs having a short shelf life, and kind of even the best running backs are not going to affect the game the same way that an elite quarterback or even some other positions will.
Yeah.
But his senior year at Texas, he had 391 carries and 2,327 yards. So he got a lot of usage in college too. So there's a lot of strikes against him that are very obvious now, but at the time it's like, oh man, this guy, just give the ball, hand this guy the ball on every play, and he's unstoppable. It's like that's human bodies have the shelf life.
I very much took this on 2 tracks. Like intellectually, I knew they traded too much, but I was like, Herschel Walker too, baby. Let's find out.
If I remember,
do you mean good Herschel Walker or bad Herschel Walker trade?
Like Herschel Walker coming out of, before he. That's right, because the trade was actually a total nightmare.
Trade late in his career, but he wasn't unstoppable.
The trade was a total nightmare for Minnesota.
So Ditka ends up coaching 3 years in New Orleans. They go 6-10, 6-10, and then 3-13 in those 3 years.
That's right.
After that, Ditka's fired. Ricky Williams gets traded to the Dolphins, and they kind of wash their hands of that whole era. But Ron, you said you ended up getting season tickets kind of right around this time, as they were about to get good. What?
Yes.
Take us back to that.
So I was living in New Orleans around 2004, and I went to like maybe 2 or 3 games. And I was like, this is great. I'm just gonna buy. I think it was under Hazlitt. It was the Jim Hazlitt years, and
Yeah.
I think we had Aaron Brooks as the quarterback, Joe Horn. I think we had one good year, won a playoff game, and I had bought the season tickets, and at the end of 2004, thinking like it was for $150, and with my
For
buddy
the
Chris
season?
for the whole season. Yeah.
Man.
And my buddy Chris was with me, and he's been on City Saint, Country Saint with me and Charles. So we were just like, oh, this is fun. And then 2005 rolls around, and we're playing the Ravens in the preseason a couple days before Katrina hits. And it has this weird ominous feel. We left the dome. We got smoked too. The Ravens killed us, like 50 something. That I don't know. I forgot. But yeah. So like the Katrina comes through, ruins everything. And then the next year, they was like, you can get your $150 back, or you can just have the next season for free, right?
Mhm.
And then the next season was '06, and that's when we got Peyton and Breeze and all that, and that was a wrap. It was a whole different era.
Yeah,
But
unbelievable timing on that.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, not unbelievable. The terrible timing with Katrina hitting,
yeah,
the worst,
yeah.
literally the worst timing
Yeah.
for for anyone
Right,
ever.
yeah.
Kind of
But
a
then after
depressing
that, the
meet
timing
cute.
was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in 2006, the Saints signed Drew Brees, who was, pretty
Mhm.
good for the Chargers, but he's a small guy. He had some shoulder issues.
Well, they also
Mhm.
drafted Rivers.
Oh yeah, they drafted
Oh,
Philip
yeah.
Rivers. So he signs with New Orleans, which is I don't remember it being a huge deal when he signed. It was like
Mhm.
there's another quarterback, and he
Yeah.
turns into a Hall of Famer. He
Yeah.
becomes immediately leads the league in passing yards his first year and becomes one of the best
Mhm.
quarterbacks in the league on one of the best offenses in the league for the next almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
I was super excited because I
Mhm.
liked I mean, I'm wrong much more often than I'm right about this stuff, but I loved Breeze at Purdue, putting
Yeah.
up
Mhm.
just insane numbers at a mediocre program.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I was shocked when he fell into the second round for the Chargers to get him. I think
Hmm.
they got
Mhm.
LaDainian Tomlinson in the first round that year.
Yeah, they did.
Damn.
And then he did, even as a rookie,
Mhm.
he was putting up big numbers, but he did have shoulder problems, and the Chargers lost faith in him. And so they drafted Rivers in that sort of crazy year. I mean, I guess technically maybe they drafted Manning and traded him for Rivers or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
but
Mhm.
Rivers was the replacement.
Yeah.
And the Saints went into that offseason deciding between Breeze and Dante Culpepper,
Yeah.
who
Hmm.
was a free agent. And I was so happy when they signed Breeze. Not because I had anything against Culpepper, but I had loved Breeze for a while, and I
Mhm.
couldn't believe he was losing his job in San Diego and that we were getting him,
Mhm.
especially after the first post Katrina season, which was I think we were 3-13 that year. And
Mhm.
all of the home games were being played in either like Baton Rouge or San Antonio or on the road.
Mhm.
And I went to the Saints home game at Giants Stadium uh, because that is where the Saints home game was moved to. They just played the Giants in New York. I was sitting like one section away from like a group of Giants fans who started like doing like it ended up being on either Sports Center or national news, just like really out of pocket chants about
Yeah.
Katrina while
Oh,
the Saints
damn.
were just
Mhm.
spending this season like really, and it's like you hate to like use this but really classless stuff. And I was with a Giants fan who was
Hmm.
like, ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
she was like, this is
Yeah.
pretty fucked up. And
Hmm.
so that was like a rough year, and then it turned around like immediately because I think
Mhm.
that next year we opened the season with the Steve Gleason blocked punt
Mhm.
and beat Atlanta,
Yeah, that was
right?
the third game. So we were 2-0,
Okay.
and they were both away games. And then it was like I think it was Monday night or Sunday night
Yeah.
game. It was national game. I think it was a Monday night game. It was our and we were 2-0. The Falcons were 2-0. We were hype. I remember walking into the dome and getting chills. Like, man, I didn't think this because the Superdome had lost its roof for Katrina. And I was like, man, it's crazy to come back in here. Like, I can't believe all this was just completely wrecked and flooded. And then Green Day was there, and they played that little "The Saints Are Coming" song, like before. And Gleason blocks the punt, and that's one of the loud. That might have been one of the loudest moments of my life. But yeah, that put us at 3-0, and Atlanta at 2-1, and then we were in control of the division. It just felt like anything was possible at that point.
Yeah. What were the vibes like at the stadium after, you were at pre-Katrina Superdome, then a season where they're on the road the entire time, and then not only are they back in New Orleans, but suddenly they're awesome and they have one of the best offenses in the league? Like, what was the stadium like that season?
It was electric. It was like people couldn't believe it was happening. We really thought we was going to win the Super Bowl that year. People were saying, "Is it rigged?" It might be. I hope so. I hope so. We deserve it. Like, let us enjoy this. Like, this is it felt very unreal, but it set a weird tone in the city because the city wasn't coming back exactly like as good as the Saints were. Half the city was still, didn't have electricity. The, buildings were still demolished. Like, houses were completely gutted. Like, it was weird to have that type of ascendance while at the same time is like, it still felt like a ghost city at times. But it was a weird dynamic, but it did feel electric. And like everybody, I think it's like you need a catharsis for people. And that season provided so much for everyone around here. It was just like all the pain, all the uncertainty. It didn't matter. We were just going to be Saints fans. And man, thank God for, Drew Brees and Sean Payton and not just them, but the whole team, I don't want to say it saved the city.
So much came together. We drafted Reggie Bush, who was up and down, but we also got Colston in the last round, sort of a guy a wide receiver out of Hofstra who turned into like a Saints legend. We got Pierre Thomas as an undrafted free agent. We just kept getting like receivers to join Joe Horn along, like Burners, Devery Henderson, who was an LSU kid, I think, and Bobby Meacham. And like, we just kept building these parts that were perfect as they were also building like a real defense, and God, I mean, it was fun. It was
so good
that year. And just as he continued to build the team, it was just like an incredible run until that Super Bowl, and it made up for me for a lot of shit, man. Because like up until that point, like most of the memories are really, really bad. Other than like that one playoff win. I mean, we had made the playoffs a couple of times, but lost. We lost to the Bears. We lost to the Falcons. I feel like it was the Falcons game where we had a blocked field goal touchdown called off like the guy lined up off sides, stuff like that. We had in 93, no one remembers the Saints blowing a huge lead to the Eagles in the wild card game because in the late window, the Oilers blew a 33-point lead to the Bills.
The
Frank Reich game. And so no one remembers that in the early game, the Saints blew a 13-point fourth quarter lead. And not only blew it, but they lost by 16. Like they got outscored 26-0. They got outscored 26-0 in the fourth quarter. So it was really, really ugly. But that, man, that was good. That run, that early Peyton run was just so good as they built a real team.
Just so our listeners know, when I after I booked our guests, Charles just unsolicitedly sent me a Google Doc with like 20 heartbreaking losses on it that we can cover. I was like, thanks. Like before I'd even like started preparing for the podcast, you're just rattling them off like, his children's names or something.
It wasn't completely off the top of my head. Like I went through like a season by season thing to find, the years of the events that I
Okay.
remembered. Like I didn't remember what year the missed extra point, the Carney missed extra point was,
But it was
which
in your
was
blood,
it was
even though blood's not real.
I mean, like I don't know if people remember that, but it was like, we were
I don't.
playing the Jags in a late season game. I think it was late season, mid to late season game, and we were losing. And on the last play of the game, it's like this multilateral kick return that ends with Joe Horn running it into the end zone to, tie the game pending the extra point. Now, I was already late for whatever I had to do. So, like, I run in to the bathroom, quick shower, get myself ready to come back out and watch overtime. And I come out and it's the post game show, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then the scroll on the bottom shows that they missed the extra point, and I was just like, this can't be true. And then I watched the replay like 18 times.
And you jinxed it with that shower. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now
it was the shower of hubris.
Yeah. Going back to 06 though, was there any tension with the Saints kind of becoming this heartwarming national story, but as you said, the city hadn't quite recovered as much as maybe we all had hoped or wish casted it to believe?
Yeah, of course, because like it felt it's like it'd be like some people were staying in hotels and like I don't have a house, but our team is good, and it's a weird dichotomy. Like a buddy of mine who had evacuated, he's all the way in West Louisiana, like almost in Texas, and he's like, yeah, I don't have a house. It is weird, like saying like the city's back and all this stuff, but like I'm living in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a strange, because like that did get a lot of the press, was like the Saints, but not really the city. But as people started coming back, I mean the fandom just grew. Like it kind of coalesced to, like on kind of like in the same thing, like we're back. And the city never really came back after Katrina. Like they did a lot more gentrification. A lot more things got privatized. In a lot of ways, the city it's a completely different city. It's like, like a 9/11 type of thing, probably, It was like before and after. Like there's definitely two different cities. But that season was the mark of like the Saints getting good again.
Yeah.
I mean, it is frustrating, and I will, like, even as a carpetbagger, because I've spoken to Louisiana people who tell me the exact same thing. In 2005, 2006, it was one thing to be like, the Saints are carrying the city on their shoulders and the spirit of the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
10 years later, when you're still like hammering that narrative and you're like trying to squeeze every last drop of sympathy out for it, and you can't get paid, it feels like it starts to feel really, really exploitative.
Yeah.
Like you're just
cheap.
like starving for, you're starving for narratives. It's really cheap to just, it's like, can this team just play some fucking football? Can't they be like good or bad on their own terms? Like they're not, they've gone 7-9 3 years in a row. Do you think they're still carrying everything on their shoulders? Like, but that's TV, right? Like they won't stop doing that. Like you would think, what's his name? Big red beard, Harvard Jets quarterback. Fitzpatrick, where they're like, went to Harvard is like his official name. It's like he's been in the league for 12 years. Stop talking about his Wonderlic score.
He forgot the stuff he learned in his classes.
It's been,
you remember your calculus? I know.
It's been knocked out of his head.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
you have to remind him he went to Harvard.
He's in the net negative of knowledge after a certain amount of years. It's like it builds up and then you just lose it after playing.
He's
football.
even admitted the Wonderlic thing isn't true and he doesn't know where it started.
Yeah. Wow. He's a negative 7 year college grad. So, yeah, I remember that narrative, and I'm sure it was like partially true because yeah, the city is rallying around the Saints, but I'm also, yeah, like you said, I'm very wary of when it becomes so simple
Hmm.
for people who don't live there being like, oh, the Saints, that's a nice story, and just not thinking about it beyond
Yeah.
that. So the Saints with Sean Payton, their new coach, who came over from the Giants, and Drew Brees, who we mentioned, they go 10-6 in 2006. They lose in the conference championship. And then the next
Hmm.
couple of years, they go 7-9 and 8-8. I didn't really remember that. I kind of thought
Hmm.
they were just on this heater, indefinitely
Yeah.
once Peyton got there. But then 2009, they go 13-3 and they win the first Super Bowl in New Orleans Saints history. What do you guys
Yes.
remember about the 2009 season leading up to that Super Bowl? And take us through, where did you watch the playoffs? Where did you watch the Super Bowl?
Oh man. So like basically those 8 and 8, 7-9 seasons, we were always electric. The offense would never stop clicking. It
Yeah,
was the
yeah, yeah.
defense. It was the defense that really like messed us up. And the '09 is when we got like the defense started playing really well. And it was mostly just Charles gonna tell, it was just takeaways, really. I mean, we were
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
we were just a really aggressive team, and we were finding ways to get stops at the right time and takeaways. And we won 30. So like we was like 13-0,
Mhm.
and we lost the last three, and then we went into the playoffs a little nervous because of
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah,
those
yeah.
last three. But I had season tickets that year, so I went to all the playoff games, and
Nice.
I was in the like one of the best moments of my life was beating the shit out of Brett Favre, which we ended up getting bounty gated for. Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's right.
Yeah. I mean, that season was insane. I mean, first of all, like Ron said, we started the year 13-0.
Hmm.
And I remember just driving around on WFAN, listening to
Mhm.
WFAN, and they were predicting that week's games. And a couple of guys in week 14 or whatever it was with the
Mhm.
bye week, but their 14th game of the year, they were like, I think actually the Cowboys might win this one. And I'm in the car like,
Mhm.
fuck you idiots.
Yeah.
And then they
Hmm.
did. They won. I don't
Mhm.
remember who beat them to make them 13-2. What I do remember is that the shit ass Tampa Bay
Tampa.
Buccaneers, and they were terrible that
Yeah.
year, beat them in the last week of the season on just one of those games where everything goes wrong. Like they had a
Mhm.
kick return and they had an interception return. It was weird. And
Yeah.
then people
Hmm.
like Football Outsiders are like, this might have been the worst 13-0 team in here. I'm like, again, double birds. Don't care about you, man. And then in
Yeah.
the divisional game, we play Kurt Warner on
Mhm.
Arizona, and we scored 40 something points, and
Yeah.
we sacked Kurt Warner like a half dozen times,
Mhm.
and he was like walking wounded by the end of the game, and
Yeah.
we blew him out. I was like, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
there we go. And then we played the Vikings, and that was like a crazy back and forth game that we won in overtime.
Mhm.
Garrett Hartley, flash in the pan kicker, hit like 4 50-yard field
Mhm.
goals that game. An
Yeah.
incredible game. And, Brett Favre choked it away with a really stupid interception as they were like on the cusp of field goal range. So we went to
Mhm.
overtime. And then of course the
Mhm.
Super Bowl was the Super Bowl. We talk about,
Yeah.
my one of the favorite images of all time. Tracy Porter pointing to the sky as he runs back the pick six with Peyton Manning in soft focus on his ass in the background because a defensive
Yeah.
lineman blocked him on, like, just poof, two hands into the chest,
Yeah.
knocked him on his ass, and he's kind of hanging his head, sitting like a 4-year-old at circle time. And
A giant
it's
4-year-old.
Yeah.
it's
That was the
so
front page of
great.
the paper. That was the front page of the newspaper when they won. Was that image you just described? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I basically predicted Bountygate
Oh
because
yeah.
because after they won, I wrote an article for David Roth. At the time was helping run a website called The Classical, which was in a way kind of a precursor to Defector. And
Mhm.
I wrote about how it all came together for the Saints. And I was like, this defense doesn't really seem any better than other years. And they don't even really seem to care that much about stopping the offense. They just want to hurt people. All Roman Harper does is hurt people. Like, hit him as hard as you can and hope that's good enough, because you're giving up 350 yards a game. You just hope it turns into field goals and not touchdowns. And like 2 weeks after that came out, they're like, New Orleans really only trying to hurt people. So I had to write a follow-up article about how it was basically true.
You squealed on us.
Yeah, exactly.
Concuss Charles now. They said $100 to whoever can concuss Charles, and they all start throwing money down. It's like, oh no.
That's what you get for writing under your real name.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Where did you watch the Super Bowl that year?
I of course we had a chance to get it was like when you have season tickets, you have a lottery, right? And we didn't win the lottery, and it was in Miami that year, so we couldn't. So I watched it at my parents' house with my mom and my dad, who were my dad was a fair weather Saints fan, but and that year he was all in because he had his heart broken so many times. So of course he was like, I can't watch that no more. He would But that year he got into it, so I watched it on they had a little bitty ass old people TV, and and I remember when the pick six happened, everybody just was down the street putting their head out the door or the window, just screaming, people honking the horns. It felt really good. Yeah.
I went to a friend of mine and his wife lived in Astoria, and they had a Super Bowl party, and my kid at that Super Bowl was a year and a half old. And so I was a couple of minutes late because we were waiting for my mom to come over to babysit. So, my mom comes over and, I'm driving like fucking Bo Duke to get to Queens to make kickoff. And I didn't. And I get there and they had paused it. They had paused the DVR before kickoff, waiting for me.
All right.
Because I was the only person with any actual rooting interest in the game. Some of them probably had a bet on the game, but none of them otherwise cared. And so they paused it, waiting for me. And then we would just like fast forward through the commercials over the objections of everyone's wives.
As long as no one on Twitter is posting about the Super Bowl, we shouldn't have any spoiler problems here.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then it didn't take that long. I wasn't that late. And so then we caught up and I just watched the game. It was awesome. Like, just an incredible run after those two huge wins. And I had a bunch of like Vikings fan friends who were like really pissed off after that game.
That was a heartbreaker. I'll talk about that in a future episode. But
They were in field. Don't worry, the Vikings got their revenge.
They got us.
Yeah. Did you think you would ever see a Saints Super Bowl in your lifetime?
No. It just felt like we were destined to always lose. Yeah,
I mean, there were a lot of Saints seasons where it felt like that, but it did. I mean, look, you start a season 13-0. I don't know how you
did. You start believing?
Never gonna, I mean, by the time the playoffs rolled around, I definitely was like, "This is our year." A thought that I would have many times in subsequent years. Only to find myself icing my balls.
But by the time we were there, I thought we had a chance. But I remember when Favre was driving in the NFC Championship, they were in field goal range. They didn't have to do much. Like they had it in when he threw the interception. That also I think was to Tracy. I think Tracy Porter got that one too. They made that dumb throw across his body. I was like, oh damn, maybe so. I'm gonna let myself believe. But in 2006, I felt like magic. But otherwise, it's just like this team they're perpetual losers,
I think I used the Minnesota radio call for the trailer for this podcast because the guys are so dejected. The play-by-play guy, it's intercepted. he like drops any like professional, he's not like, hey, fire back. It's intercepted.
Yeah.
And then like the color guy is just like, what are you doing, man? You're in field goal range. It's a Super Bowl. And like they just like turn into fans immediately. There's
I
no,
have heard that
wow, that's
so
a
many
heartbreaking
times.
loss right there.
Yeah.
It's like so they're so mad they drop any
And
pretense of
so
professionalism and are just
personal.
screaming
Yeah.
about it. It's I don't
They
know.
are mad specifically at Brett Favre.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
how could you possibly,
Yeah, you
like
threw it out of bounds or kneel, or
Yeah.
kneel or you
just
and and
anything
you take a field goal.
short of
Yeah.
calling him a Packers double agent, like
Yeah.
you could feel like it on the tip of their tongue. You've been setting us up the whole time.
The worst thing Brett Favre would ever be called in his life from that point on.
Oh, were you stealing money, Brett Favre?
Yeah.
What was New Orleans like afterwards? It's already the partyingest city in the world, probably even beyond Vegas. And now they have like the most cathartic victory of all time. I can't even imagine what the vibes were like then.
Yeah, I wasn't in the city for that. I was in my parents' hometown, which is about an hour outside the city, southwest. But I was in the city for the NFC Championship because we went out after that. And the restaurants were all giving away free food and drinks. Like we got free like onion rings from Acme Oyster House. I think like we got like all these. Every bar we went in, there was just like money didn't matter. Cars were just gridlocked, and like people were standing on top of them, just screaming. I didn't have a smartphone back then, but I brought a digital camera, and I probably should get the little memory card from it and post this somewhere. But like, I got people just like standing on top of cars, screaming. Traffic's gridlock. Everybody's just yelling. I mean, there's of course somebody. I don't know. It was. I can't. So I would imagine it was probably the same thing when we won the Super Bowl, or times 10. But yeah, it was pandemonium.
Yeah.
But,
do you think that made your fandom totally worth it? Did that finally kind of
100%?
Trade 4 decades for that?
100%.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%. I forgive Gail Benson for covering up the Catholic Church's atrocities.
I don't even know the full story there, but
she just helped. She was just providing helping provide PR counsel to the archdiocese.
Who was covering up pedophilia? Yeah.
Oh man.
So that's It's like we really can't say we deserve another Super Bowl. Like we can't. Yeah, we're lucky.
If every city with a diocese that abuses children doesn't deserve a Super Bowl, then we are going to have to find a small town.
That's true. Yeah.
If your sports owner isn't covering up at least 7 horrific crimes at all times, like they're just not trying,
Right.
Yeah, I have so many like of my own, like rooting for Ben Roethlisberger. You're just like, you just start negotiating where you're like, well, this team's quarterback did this, and the owner did that. Yeah. You just start to like negotiating awfulness to like justify, like. Yeah. So it's all kind of bad. I'm not saying this is good. I'm just saying that the Patriots owner did this.
Yeah, I had Will Smith hit me with the Men in Black flash, so I never had to think about Drew Brees off the football field.
Yeah.
Very reactionary apology. Oh, Guantanamo, they were treated so well. Yeah. All right, buddy. I need another flash.
You're just like forgetting your own, your family's like names and stuff. It's just like, I don't care. Hit me with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I didn't want to bring us down by talking about the post 09 Saints, but you already brought us down real fast. So now we can do that. We can do that segue nice and easily.
Yeah.
So from that Super Bowl was February of 2010 from the 09 season. They win the Super Bowl. Since then, the Saints have been on and off pretty good. They made the playoffs 7 times, but they only made the conference finals once and lost. And they haven't been back to the Super Bowl since the 09 season. So what stands out from you guys from this kind of post Super Bowl period? Obviously Bounty Gate we talked about. But what kind of defines this post Super Bowl period for you?
It is the brutal postseason losses, like in ways that I don't think because I'm not a hardcore fan of any other team, but I don't think any other team has had like the San Francisco loss, the Vikings loss, and of course the Rams loss. Like those were like gut punch. That changed my relationship to football. I kind of distanced myself after the Rams game for like 2 years. I didn't really get back into it until me and Charles did a podcast. Like it hurt. Like I was like, this shit's rigged, like or whatever, or like I don't
The
know.
league's rigging things against New Orleans. You're like, all right, you've had enough heartwarming shit.
Yeah, you gotta
rigged.
pay.
So what was the LA game that you're talking about? What was like the horrible loss there?
Well, I'll just start with LA since you asked about it. But that was the one where they were driving down. It was a tie game. It was late in the game. They were like inside the 20, and it was like 3rd and short. And they throw a pass out into the right flat to Tommy Lee Lewis, and Roby Coleman, Nickel, I think is his first name, Roby Coleman, just 2-hand shoves him before the ball gets there. Like he's way late getting over in coverage. Like he had to like run really far. And so Roby Coleman just fucking hit sticks him clearly before the ball gets there. No flag. And that would have gotten them a first down. And one of two things would have happened. They either score the touchdown or they kneel it out and kick a field goal with no time left, or catastrophe, and then none of it mattered. But what actually happens is they kick the field goal on 4th down with a minute and change left. They give up an embarrassing, like seriously embarrassingly bad field goal drive to Jared Goff and the Rams. Like they just scored chunk play after chunk play to kick their own field goal as time expired, and then the Rams win in overtime. So that was the call that created replay challenges. The no call on that play is why there were replay challenges.
And I was in the stadium for that, and I was in the end zone farthest away. So I was like, I did not have a great vantage point. But when Tommy Lee Lewis got hit, most people, we just cheered before, like we just stood up, we're like, yes. And then we just looked in horror, oh, where's the flag? Where's the flag? And no flag. And then that like, we were excited, and that just turned to like horror. And then it was like, I can't believe, and then just booze, and just booze everywhere.
I say this with the preface that he is fine. I watched that game in my brother's hospital room at Sloan Kettering.
Oh man.
And so like my brother, who is like deep into chemo, is like barely staying awake, and I'm watching football angrier than I've ever been in my life.
You're like, oh man, a brutal day for both of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Man,
like,
we were really
what?
going through it. Yeah.
He's hardly even giving me any sympathy.
Yeah.
Like it was bad.
Yeah.
And that was the year after the Minneapolis Miracle. Like, so the year before, they take a late lead and give up that, ridiculous Stephon Diggs touchdown that they weren't even trying for a touchdown. They were just trying to get into field goal range. But since the Saints defenders knocked each other over, Stephon Diggs the clear instruction was to catch the ball and step out of bounds. But when there was nobody to tackle him, he just took off down the field and won the game on a play that was designed just to give them a shot at like a 53-yard field goal as time expired.
Yeah, that was brutal. I remember I watched that at work. I stayed late. Like I was supposed to get off at a certain time, but we had a TV on at work, and I was like, I'm gonna stay late because it's important, And as soon as he walks into the end zone, I just cut the TV, and me and my coworker just left the building, locked up, like quiet, didn't say shit like to each other, got in the car, and then I was like, well, maybe that was a penalty or something like that. And I remember turning on the radio and immediately heard Bobby Hebert, the local Saints guy talking. He used to be our quarterback too. Just like living. Like I was like, oh yeah, we lost. He just turned around. I was like, yeah, that was real. All right.
Tried to do the reverse Charles shower.
Yes,
like, wait, maybe if I shower, they will have somehow won. It's like, no, it didn't work. They lost.
Right. And the 2 years after the Super Bowl were brutal too. After we win, we go to the playoffs again. Somehow we end up in the wild card game, even though we're like 12-4. And we play the Seattle Seahawks, who won the NFC West at 7-9.
Ooh, I remember this game very clearly.
So we have to go to Seattle, and that's beast mode.
Yeah, that was Marshawn Lynch scoring in overtime, right? And he was just like unstoppable all game.
And then that fucking shit was put to Mario sounds.
I remember that too. Yeah.
And I was like, oh no.
This is my pain. It's not a joke. Yeah. This is not a meme. Yeah.
I was impressed. I was impressed, but I didn't appreciate it at that level.
It is interesting too how, we talk about, you remember the beast mode game and the Minneapolis Miracle, but it's like I couldn't have told you what team that was against until we just brought it up in this podcast. So it's just funny that there's this whole frustrating other side of a thing that gets treated like, didn't you see this amazing play? It's a meme now. It's like, no, I'm pissed off. No, I'm really mad about it. I hate that. I wish
Did
he had
I
been
see
tackled.
it? I'm going to see it every night before I go to sleep for the rest of my life. Yeah. And then the year after that, we played I know it was the Niners. I don't know if it was divisional. What do you think?
If we'd have beat the Niners, we would have played the Giants. I feel like we would have beat them. I think that might have been the time the Giants won the Super Bowl even.
Yeah. But we lost that game when we gave up a touchdown on like 4th and 6 from the 12 with 9 seconds left.
Oh man.
That one, and that was our best team.
Got under.
I thought that was the most talented team we had. Vernon Davis. But before that, he caught it like a he ran it down out and up. That
Bill Clinton's friend.
Yeah.
The Clinton crime family.
I get
he scored
you're
the
gonna leave him
touchdown,
open,
and he gave Monica Lewinsky a job.
You force their weakest players to beat you, and if Vernon Jordan makes the catch, you take away their biggest threats, and you just got to hand it to him.
Yeah.
So, in your lifetime, how has your Saints fandom changed? Are you as rabid as you were in your teens, 20s?
I'm more measured now and humbled after these terrible losses. Like one of the things I remember was after the no call with the Rams, I never heard the dome that quiet. Nobody was even mad. Like it was just silent. Like nobody could really talk. We walked these ramps that go down the stadium, in a mass of people. And it was like a funeral. And so we're walking back to like our car, and there's like a large, portion of unhoused people under the interstate. And I'm passing in front of them, and they're just, these people who don't have houses are telling us it's going to be okay and keep faith and look like they were giving, I was like, and that's that moment. I was like, man, am I taking this too seriously?
Yeah.
Like I'm getting cheered up.
Yeah,
I'm getting cheered up on home. Like it's like, it's fine. Like I'm going to get in this car and go to my house. Like you don't, I should be doing something for you. Like don't, you don't have to console me. And I do remember driving back and turning on the radio again, listening to Bobby Hebert. And he said, he was on this kick that it came out that the ref who didn't make that call was actually from Los Angeles. Right. So then I go, like, oh, and then I'm just like, man, fuck football. Fuck this. I can't get back into this. But it sucks. It sucks you back a little bit more every year.
Of course.
And I like to think I'm a little more measured and a little bit more I don't know what else they can do to us at this point. There's not I can't have another heartbreaking loss. So it kind of feels like I'm kind of playing with house money now. I'm only going to enjoy the good stuff. And I've learned some kind of weird Buddhism or something where the pain just can't hurt me no more. Right. It's only pleasure.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's the most immediately humbling story I've ever heard. Just being cheered up.
Yeah, no, I'm still Jewish, so I revel in misery. And so I mean, my fandom has, my kid cares. Like he ditched the Pirates a while ago.
Oh,
Good
so
for him.
he only cares about like how it affects my emotional state in baseball. But he still cares about the Saints. And I'm hoping to get him, because a couple of years ago, he was like really into fantasy football, and he would come to the bar with me when it was a day game, because they wouldn't let him in at night, but they would let him come to the bar with me for the day games, and we would watch together. And I kind of loved that. And, we would go to a game, like when they play in New York, he comes with me to watch them play the Giants or the Jets. And I'm hoping that we go down as a family to make a trip to like a December game or something in New Orleans. And, a couple of years ago, like, certainly after Mike Dicta ended, and after, which was like the first legal podcast I did. And then, A-Lab has been hard to coordinate episodes because everyone's got like families and jobs and not a ton of interest in being a legal political guy when it all feels so fucking feckless. Like what am I, Mueller, she wrote? Like, it just feels like you want to be funny, but like you also want to be serious, but the serious part feels like you're just shouting into the sky, and so it's hard to motivate to do it as often as we want to. And a couple of years ago, I was like, I gotta get back on the mic because I'm going insane. And I was just like, Ron, do you want to do a Saints podcast? Because I need a reason, even if it's just for like half a year, to like record something once a week for a while. And I was really thrilled that he said yes, because it has made, like, because it's 2 mediocre seasons in a row, and it looks like it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
And so it's so much better to have someone who you can just be like absolutely tearing it to shreds with.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like I'm not alone. Yeah.
It's
actually
fun to be miserable together.
Yes. Yes.
I like the idea that you're like, man, everything feels so hopeless right now. I got to get more into the Saints. Just like, Charles, dude. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I've told you, terrible decisions.
Yeah. That's our show. Thanks again to Charles and Ron for joining to share their pain and joy about the New Orleans Saints. If you like the show, please leave an iTunes review or just tell people about it. We'll be back in 2 weeks with an all-new episode. Thanks so much for listening, everyone.